Welcome back to Feed Your Soul. I'm so excited. This is episode number 3, and I have got an amazing guest here who I've actually known for quite a long time, and his name is Jason Podollan.
Thanks for having me, Serena.
Thank you for coming, Jason, and agreeing to do this with me. Did I have to twist your arm a little bit, or?
I think it was an easy sell, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Okay, so before we get started with all of our guests, I like to get them all like relaxed and everything. So we do something that's called a soul second.
Oh, geez.
Yes, he has no idea what's coming. We're gonna play a tune and we're gonna do a chair dance.
Chair dance.
You gotta feel it.
Yeah, this is exactly how I start my day. So ironic. Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
oh
that
my god.
was easy.
Oh my god. See?
Yeah.
Are you warm? Do you feel good?
Yeah.
See,
Well,
now
I already did that for like 5 minutes before I came over, so it's just like a repeat.
Oh my god. Feed your souls up because I think you were really feeling it, Jason.
Yeah, I think there might have been a watermelon on my head.
There might have been. We
Potentially.
were in Hawaii, actually, as a couple, like him and his wife, and me and Ryan, me and my husband, and yeah, all of a sudden we love to dance, like because his wife loves to dance, I love to dance, and sometimes you guys do too. I think. Well, you busted
The
out.
timing's right. It's the timing's right.
I just wanted to introduce you because I think that, well, first of all, I've known you for a long time, and prior to this conversation, I was like thinking about like what we would talk about, and really why I did want to talk to you in the end of our conversation, which we'll get to, is kind of what you're doing right now, which is like you're up your hockey and you're training and doing all that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you guys out there who's listening and who's watching that I've known Jason for probably elementary.
I think elementary, yeah.
And
School,
yes.
we're talking about elementary school years.
So I was thinking about how I first met you, and it's ironic that I knew you and that you ended up being really good friends with my husband, who I didn't know at that time was a good friend of yours. So we went, I think you were in Sunday school. Like, that's kind of how I knew you. Through
Really?
St. James. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you probably don't remember that. And I was telling Ryan
Were we in
that-
the same, so we were in the same Sunday school class?
No, because you're a year older than me.
Oh.
But of course, I told Ryan, I remember sitting at church one time and then you see these like blue and white jackets.
Oh, from the Vernon.
Pee-wee.
Yeah, Pee-wee's hockey team.
Pee-wee
jackets.
hockey. And like, I don't even know anything about the sports, right? But all of a sudden,
Sports.
all of a sudden, I see, these, good looking guys in these like white, and Ryan's like, they had leather, Serena, on the sleeve. I'm like, they sure did.
Those are coming back now.
They are?
Yeah, they're like the kids are doing it as more like a retro look, and it's like so vibrant. Yeah,
Oh, and you're gonna feel it,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
amazing. So I told him about that, and then I said to him, I'm like, I would love to find a picture of you guys from when you were younger. And so he, I don't know, gets on his phone, Mr. Ryan, who's not usually like, hey, let me find it for you.
Yeah.
And he finds the 1990 PE Champions photo.
Sweet. I could have brought the jacket for you too. To really go back.
Darn! You have to take a photo and we'll have to post the jacket. I will post the jacket. I looked at the photo and like you had a C. You were captain that year.
One of the years.
Yeah.
that's
So
it.
I think that year you were captain, and then it was so cool to see like Ryan was there and like all the guys that you kind of hang out with.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is,
how about this? I'm going to take over.
No,
for
go
this,
ahead.
Because she's not about the sports, as she's already said. But this Pee Wee team from Vernon, like what, 35,000 people,
Yes.
had 3 players go to the NHL from the team. Like
Wow.
that is so rare and so like unheard of, and that was super special from that team.
which I looked at the photo and it was like pure talent. Like there was you, there was Brad Larson
Brad Heggie.
and Matt Higgins.
Yeah, Mike Ford went to play University of Michigan State.
Yeah.
Well, even how many guys went to play junior, like your husband
Yes.
played junior? And
Yes,
so, yeah, it
and
was
Jeff
lot of-
Shepherd played.
Yeah, a lot of talent.
I feel like your guys' team, your camaraderie that you built way back then, I admire what you guys have continued on as friends, because I mean every year they do a golf tournament that's called Tin Cup, and we got my husband and I got married 23 years ago, and that was that no, you'd done that before.
Yeah, we did it before that. Yeah.
So 20.
We're like almost approaching 30.
30 years.
Yeah.
So these guys all get together, hang out, and I just think it's so amazing.
That's what sports will do for you, the sports. It's kind of like what you had going on at Seoul, right? You have a community, especially if you win something, like we won a provincial championship. I don't care if it was 12 years old or 13 years old. Like, that's a massive bonding experience.
Yeah.
And, what you got to go through to do that, to accomplish it. I mean, there's something about that just doesn't leave. So,
no. And the bonding helps, don't you find too, with the mental aspect of health and wellness? Do you find?
In the context of what?
The context of anything, like just having a team, being together, finding a place to belong.
Oh yeah.
Coming
yeah,
together.
100%. I mean, I experienced that way more at the pro level, because there's so many ups and downs. Pro, every day you're coming to the rink and all that kind of stuff. Like when you're a young kid like that, we were just sort of just having a blast, right? I mean, so there's not really that much support, I would say, from that experience. But I mean, definitely a team that cares about each other is a mentally fit place to be. It helps with that for sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be sport. It doesn't have to be the sports. It could be a team of anything. So tell me a little bit about so when you played hockey when you were younger, did you have were you what was your drive behind hockey when you were younger? Did you you had a lot of passion for it? Was it your skill level? What kept you playing?
Well, yeah, good question. You mean passion for sure. I fell in love with the sport, I think, I was 5 years old, which is so crazy, right? Because I look at 5-year-olds now, well, not now, but all I'm saying is at 5 years old, Hockey Night in Canada was on, and I would sit in front of our TV, and I would watch an entire game. I love the sport, right? And that was when the Canucks went to the final that year in '81, doing the Stanley Cup final, and that was when I kind of got hooked. I can vaguely remember that, and my parents obviously tell me. So there's something about the sport that obviously attracted me to it. Yeah. That was also the same year that I started playing for the first time, officially. Okay. And so there's some type of grassroots love affair with it. Yeah. And then I turned out to be pretty good. Right, which I think also helps with the passion of what that is. So you're getting reinforced, you love this thing, you're also good at it, and then I was just a typical kid. I was a super fan. I loved the NHL. I loved everybody that was in it. I thought I was going to be in it. Yeah. And then that was really, at some point it morphed into the idea that I was going to be an NHLer.
Oh, okay,
right?
so that's
it went from wanting to love and play the game to be this is what I want to do. Right. And this is my pursuit. And this is my goal.
So your work ethic also must have played a role in that. You must have been driven yourself to pursue that. I mean, you can have talent for one thing, but I also feel you have to have a drive and some sort of work ethic to get you to where you need to be. Would you get up at 6 and be pumped or or whatever?
That's funny. Yeah, well, we had early morning practices, so I can't say that I was the one setting his own alarm clock like my kids are. Okay. It's crazy to see the next generation now and how they participate in it. I was always I was listening to Canucks games on the radio until 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Wow. So I didn't like getting up early in the morning very much, but that's nothing to say about my work ethic though. I believe. From when I can remember, I was a hard worker. I remember doing things that other kids weren't doing for sure. I had my rollerblades when I was 10 years old, and I would be going out and doing I would be training, and timing myself on 5-mile runs up in the middle of BX. Right? That wasn't. No one told me to.
But see, so you had that drive.
Oh yeah, well for sure. There was an idea that. To be the best, which I really did want to be. Yeah. That was kind of, wasn't just making the NHL in a lot of aspects. It was I want to be one of the best, right? And so you get that idea. I remember. You remember where I lived? Maybe I lived at the top of this hill. I joke with my boys about it all the time, and it was like it wasn't a normal hill. It really was like probably 20% grade.
Yeah,
it was maybe a kilometer long. And so coming home from school, like in elementary, or you mean elementary is when it first started though, like it would be an internal competition to like not stop and not to ever walk my bike. And so there's kind of some things, I don't know if that's inherent, like if that's just like in me.
It is in you.
Or if it's kind of something that was also developed. And like, because that's something that I really talk about now. Like we talk about the mindset aspect of life, right?
Yeah.
There's always little mini choices all the time, right? So for whatever reason at 9-10 years old, I had this little choice that this hill wasn't going to beat me. And if it did, I'd go back down and I'd try again.
Amazing.
Right? So like there was kind of aspects of that. And I definitely brought that to my hockey training too.
I love, and that's probably why you got as far as you did. So tell me a little bit about the first time that you got into or got drafted. Am I saying the right thing?
Yeah.
Okay, got drafted into the NHL. Like, tell me about that moment. And were you wanting that? Was it a surprise? Were you working for it? Like, go back to that time of your life. And how old were you?
Well, everyone gets drafted at it's their 17-year-old year in hockey.
Okay.
So that means like in that calendar year, if you start that year 17 and you don't turn 18 before Christmas, like that's the year that you are eligible for the first time to get drafted.
Okay.
At that point in time, I had just finished my 16-year-old season in the WHL.
Okay.
So that's a tough league to play in at 16. So if you're playing in it, you're kind of you're thinking you're on the right path.
Okay.
And
least, you played with Spokane?
I played in Spokane, yeah. And that 16-year-old year, I scored 36 goals. I think that was the second most in the whole Canadian Hockey League. So that means like WHL, OHL, QMJHL. So like I was recognized as one of the best players going into the next year. And so I made the national team for Canada. So we went to Japan that summer. Yeah,
right.
So that was cool. So it was like under 18, like the national team for under 18.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was super special. There's a lot of stuff that was like telling me that, you mean actually, and then the Hockey News does their reports, and I was supposed to be a top 10 pick the next year, and maybe even as high as kind of top 5 in some areas. Anyway, so when the season starts, and that was sort of like my first kind of
taste of it.
Well, taste of adversity, really. Like it was. So I had all these signs and all this expectation and all these things that were supposed to be happening, and then the season didn't start off great.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time with the coach, which people who are in sports, or even like I guess in corporate, you have a boss that it was a hard time. I couldn't get on the ice. It didn't seem like there was much compatibility there. There was some strife between my dad and the coach. There was like this triangle, and my dad wanted me to get traded. The coach was like sitting me out at times. So anyways, it was really tough, right? You're a 17-year-old kid. 100%. And like not only is your goals and dreams are on the line, but there's also like the really tangible idea of like there's dollars and cents on the line too. I mean, the lower you get drafted, the less money you're going to get, and all this kind of stuff, right? So so it was tough. Like my dad wanted me to get traded. Was like very adamant about it, like big arguments at home. You shouldn't be here. I wanted to stick it out, so there was that internal kind of thing of like, well, no, I want to figure this out. Like I want to be here. This is where it should be. Anyways, I mean, at the end of the day, I stayed. The coach ended up quitting, which was like super kind of crazy. That's a whole nother story. But like he kind of announced his departure right before a game. We had a new coach come in, and so it went okay. Like the draft year went okay. I ended up scoring 29 goals, which was 7 less than as a 16-year-old, right? And then the draft story is like really bonkers, which we don't think we have time for. But like we have all these meetings, right, heading into draft, and so like my stock I'd lost some stock, right? Meaning like I didn't have a great season. And so I knew I was going to go somewhere still relatively high and something you could be super proud of. But the question was where. And the Toronto Maple Leafs shook my hand like the night before, like the draft. I had a one-on-one meeting with the manager. He said, we're going to take you with our first pick tomorrow. And, we don't think we're going to get you here, but we're going to trade up and try and get you. Anyways, long story short, they never took me. I thought that he told me, shook my hand, looked me in the eyes. And anyway, so that never happened. So then once that, well, it was really shocking. Yeah, it was, it turns out that like their head scout actually passed away from a heart attack the week of, and then they had this like internal, like he told me, like the GM, who was Cliff Fletcher for the hockey fans out there, took me aside after the draft and he said we decided to pick his guy, like in memory of him. So he's like, I'm so sorry that I'm so sorry that we never took you, and I told you that, but I mean that's what we decided to do. So like crazy. Like that's so crazy too. Like
even how the context of the story, Anyways.
Everything's crazy, yeah. So from being like potentially like Toronto's first pick in the first round, like what that would have been, to being Florida's third pick, 31st overall. So that's where I ended up going. The 31st overall to Florida.
But you ended up back in Toronto.
Yeah, they ended up trading for me. So Cliff ended up trading for me and ended up getting the guy that he wanted. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, that was so weird. And I've said this on my podcast before, is like expectation is everything. Because like 31st overall in the world is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you actually just put that in and of itself.
Yeah, yes.
But if you think you're going to be 14th overall, and then you wait for 2 hours, like it's absolutely devastating.
Oh,
like it was actually probably one of the worst days of my hockey. Like that whole scenario on that night, like I'd never been really. I was crushed.
Crushed.
Yeah, crushed, absolutely crushed. So I mean, kind of weird. Like now I'm super like, hey, I mean, awesome, right? 31st overall, that's great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what an honor, you know, what a privilege, like all those other things. But in the moment, as a 17 or 18-year-old kid, like I was like gut wrench.
But what a perspective shift. I feel like as we get older, like we continue to look back at our life, and I always think like when I'm going through a hard time, I'm like, but I've always gone through it. Do you know what I mean? Like I always feel like, yes, I've been crushed, but you know what? I can get through it because I have in the past.
Yeah.
So you must share that with your kids that you coach, right? Like, you know, even feel that feeling of being crushed, because at 17, you're so young. Like you don't even know what that feeling is, and you feel like you've lost everything, you know, because you don't even know how to cope with grief, you know?
Yeah.
And then now as you get older, you're like, oh my God, I was amazing. 31st, you know what I mean? You're like, holy crap, like what a different like perspective. But I think that's part of like, as we get older and we get a little wiser, and I think you can't really, I mean, you can tell people, but sometimes I feel like you can't really tell them how they feel unless they go through it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would say things to me like, oh, this is what you should be doing. I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. Then all of a sudden, you know, crash and burn. I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah. I think the challenge is for me, like when I mean, it wasn't like this long
drawn out.
Yeah,
Right. No,
you
no.
know, I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
It was
like
a
days, and then it was like then you're back in the
Back in.
fight and you're doing the thing,
You
right?
have to be.
And the thing that I guess I would say is when I do work with athletes now, and the idea is like that we're all human, right? You're gonna the idea of mental toughness and like, you know, fortitude and resiliency, those are all great words, but like everyone is going to have some capacity for depression or feeling not great or, you know, I mean, being let down. The question is, I say, and it's a hockey term, I say like, how long does it take you to close the gap?
Yeah.
So like, how long does it take to get back on your feet?
I love
and
that.
roll, right? And I guess that for me, and that speaks to me in my language, because that's the competition aspect of it, right? So yeah, allow yourself to feel, but then also understand that however long you want to wait in the weeds or in the hole, I mean, that's on you, right? And you're not being your best, and you're not getting things accomplished. So like, and then you try and help them with strategies and stuff to get out of that. But, I think when you can gamify things, at least for me,
great.
I think
no, especially in what you're doing, and they can understand that scenario a little bit. That's amazing. So, so you played in the NHL for how long, and how many teams did you play?
Well, yeah, I didn't play long enough. I played 41 games. That's
Yeah.
another one. Like as I was playing, and when I retired, it was like almost disappointing and embarrassing in some ways. But 4 different teams: the Panthers, the Maple Leafs, the Kings, and the Islanders. And in the minors for all those teams. So I played 10 years professionally. You know, ended up going to Germany, and yeah, I mean hockey. Paid for a lot of things for me. So I mean, I was super fortunate and got to see a lot of amazing places. And it wasn't the, like I said, it wasn't the NHL career that I wanted or what I think it could have been. Maybe in some respects should have been. But the other thing is like, well, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
That's exactly.
And helping if it was the career that I thought it could have been either. So it is what it is.
So you mentioned Germany, and actually I was thinking back about a couple things like in our past or whatever, but I took my interior design course back in 2003 because I started working at our family's furniture business, and Jason built this beautiful home at Predator Ridge, and he was in Germany. So then all of a sudden he calls me, or I don't know how we connected on the level of like, could you help me pick my colors or whatever. So here I am, freshly out of this interior design program, just working into my furniture career. And I'm talking to Jason on the phone, who's in Germany, right? And we're friends now because of my husband. I mean, Jason's was in our wedding party, like, you know, so we're all connected that way. And he's just like, hey, could you help me pick my colors? I was like, okay. And then so I said, hey, Ryan, hey, babe. He asked me, he's like, can you pick a color? And Ryan's like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I'm like, planning out my color boards, and I'm like thinking, and I'm going, and I'm looking at the construction, and I'm like envisioning everything, and I was laying it all out. And then I call, I'm like, okay, I'm like, Jason, I've got like all these color boards and da-da-da. He's like, okay. And he said to me, you said to me, well, just get it done, Serena. And I was like, so here I am on the phone. I remember I was in my second office at the store, and I was like, get it done? Can you trust me, like, to get your colors done? You're not even going to say, like, da-da-da-da. Anyways, thank you for that, because you empowered me. Because I don't know if I would have had that confidence to do that, but you instilled that in me. So I think that is just your nature, which I think is cool that now you're helping kids. You know, it's empowerment. But anyways, I did it, and then
fun. She did a great job, too. Really good job. It looks good in there. People still say, like, what is that? That's like, house is over 20 years old now.
Is.
And like people walk in and they think it's like you, you know. So it did a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was a fun part that we also talked about. Okay, so after your hockey career, you then came. Okay, you met your beautiful wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I met her for the first time in Seattle, probably.
Oh gosh.
20 years?
She was 18 something like that.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, Jason gets this, you know, girlfriend from LA, and we were like, who is this girl from LA? You know, and she's a dancer. Anyways, it ends up to be that she's just an amazing person, and her and I were like two peas in the pod because we love to dance and we're just kind of the same, you know, kind of. And yeah, so we've had some great times together, and then you guys got married, and then have how many kids? Three
boys.
3 boys.
40 months from front to back, especially when you go through the old photos and videos, and it's like, it's just mayhem, like at all times.
Yeah, and like you're like, how did I even do that?
Oh yeah, you don't even know.
You don't even know what's
you
going on.
don't even realize what's going on.
But these 3 boys are amazing, and they're in hockey, all 3 of them.
Yeah, they're all in hockey. They're all following in my footsteps.
By choice. They love it.
Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know, like people who maybe are around hockey guys, or maybe I don't even know what my impression would be. Like, what would be your impression? Do you think I'd be somebody that I'd be like putting them on skates when they're like 2 and running out there and shooting pucks with them and stuff, or what?
I don't know if you'd be like forcing them to do it, but I think that there'd be like, you know, the non-verbal communication.
Right.
You know what I mean? You'd be like, hey, like, let's go get your skates on. Maybe you'd slide the skates.
Right.
Hey, you want to put the skates on? You know, like, I don't know, but maybe that's what got them. But also, when you're growing up and you're seeing like your dad, or like you being the dad, like who was in this NHL career, like I think it would be very inspiring, you know, and maybe it got them curious.
Yeah, I think that was probably it, because Sarah, as you said, like from LA, she did grow up in Michigan, which is a very hockey state, but she knew nothing about hockey.
She knows nothing about the sports either.
And I was done with hockey when we met, right? So there was like, that wasn't even a thing with our relationship, like me being a hockey player.
Yeah.
And then when she was up here, and then we had kids, and she wanted to be on the ski hill. She was like, let's be like a skiing family, you know? And you know it is here in Vernon, right? It gets really socked in, and you don't see the sun or the sky. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, like I was really completely impartial to it, and like was pro, let's do the ski thing. Yeah. And but try as we might, like that was just it was just so funny.
I can't see her on skiing.
Well, she just screams her whole way down the hill, which is awesome. But yeah, we like the story I tell, which is like when we kind of had like the aha moment of like, this is like beating a dead horse. Yeah, like it was like, you know, Silver Star, right? Glorious day. It was like, you know, 2 degrees out. Just the snow had just fallen. It was like fresh snow on the runs, and sun's out, and it's like the second run of the day, and we're going up this chairlift, and the boys, hey Dad, when can we go to the pond? And I was just like it doesn't get any better than that, and you're already miserable. You know what I mean? And I spent how much on your stupid skis for the 3rd year? It was like, Sarah, this is done. We're like, they're playing. So like it wasn't. Yeah, like we didn't put them in hockey. I didn't put them in, like they put themselves in hockey.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so which is cool. They came to it naturally. I think, like to your point, like probably understanding that at an age where they knew that I did play. Yeah. That and seeing some of the stuff that I have in the house and my jerseys or whatever was probably like interesting to them and curious and yeah, that brought them to the game. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I am thankful because they brought me back to the game. Yes. I wasn't involved in the game, so that was cool. Like I got reintroduced to a game that I loved, obviously a lot growing up, and And now they found something that they're passionate about. And I think as parents, like that's all you
That's
really
all
want.
you want.
Yeah, you want them to love something, right?
Yeah.
And to chase something. And I love the fact that they're doing that. So.
And they're doing something that they're chasing on their own, you know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think how maybe we grew up is like, hey, try and chase something. This is what I think you should chase.
Right.
You know, like, or things like that. So you get into your head, like, this is what I think I should be doing. But now I think, you know, fast forward 20 years, 15 years, like, you think, oh my God, I chase what makes you happy. Like, really, well, in the context of my podcast, is chase what feeds your soul, you
Right.
know? And I think that's a hard concept to grasp when people are telling you what you think you should be doing versus what you really want to be doing.
Sure, yeah, there's
know?
a big leap, I think, for in a lot of areas to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's great that the generation now, if parents are more open that way, that they get to do that, right? Because I don't know, I think life's too short to be like, you said, beating a dead horse at maybe a job you don't like or a sport that you're playing that you're like, why am I here? You know, like I think I'm gonna love it. But I mean, like, people get scared to make that change and be like, oh my God, like maybe I should do something different, right?
Sure.
Like, but that's coming out of that fear is really also my hopes of this podcast is to get people thinking about like, you know, what they did in the past. So coming back to your conversation about brought you back into the game. Like, so did you think that hockey was done once you were done? Like, you played beer league. I think you played beer league. With
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but
a little bit.
not a lot.
I'd come out on Sundays. I mean, so that wouldn't, like, to me, that wasn't done.
Right.
Right. But I left the professional aspect of the game kind of
Got you.
like quite quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
I was 30 years old, and again, like it was more like, I can't believe that was what that was.
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously I still felt good about a lot of things
Of
that
course.
happened with it, but it was like time to move on, right?
Yeah.
And that was sort of where I was. I was always super curious and interested about tons of things, and
Yeah.
still am, right?
Yes.
And that I feel that's part of my
We've always
personality.
been like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was, I mean, so there was no identity crisis. For a lot of people there is,
Yeah.
you know, and I think with regardless of any sport, but I definitely know hockey because I'm around a ton of hockey players that's all you've done
Yeah.
until X amount of years old.
Right.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
That's how you identify,
Yes.
and now you're not. So now what? You know, I didn't have that necessarily. I was almost like the other way around. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to, you know, I was like higher education. I'm going to university, and I'm doing this, and I mean, there were so many things that were interesting to me. So I left the game, and I was like looking forward to like whatever life was going to bring.
Yeah.
And obviously dabbled and did lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
And then the game came back.
Yes.
Kind of, you know, in full force, and then I kind of grew my way back into it, and now it's like a huge piece of everything.
Which
Yeah.
I think is amazing. Like I admire what you do, and I like talking to you about coming on Feed Your Soul. I'm going to share the whole conversation. So I was like, so hey Jason, I'd like to interview you on my podcast, and he's like, okay. I'm like, well, this is why I'd like to interview you, and I said that, you know, you. Well, first of all, I've known you for so long, and then you've done some hockey, and then I said, then you're doing this job, like up my hockey, and I said, and then I think it really feeds your soul. Jason goes, that's a little assumptive, or would you say? You were assuming, or assumptuous? Is that the word? Assumptive. It's a little assumptive. I was like, but I'm like, okay, so here is why I'm going to tell you why, from an outsider point of view, I feel like you're feeding your soul. So the thing is sometimes we don't feel like we are because it becomes a chore, it becomes our everyday thing. But from what I see and the effort that you're putting in to help these kids, like it has to feed some part of you, you know, because I don't think you would have that drive to want to be or make these kids better, you know, because really it's not about you, Jason, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
And that's really why you're doing it. So from an outsider point of view, I do feel like you're feeding your soul in a way, you know.
I was just giving her a hard time.
I know, and I know he does do that because I seriously was laughing. I was like, oh, but I think I'm assuming right. But so tell us a little bit about, so you have a podcast at My Hockey. So now tell us a little bit about because this podcast also talks about the transitions into transformations in life. And as we discussed in like the other episodes, like we talked about people that have gone through various transitions in their life and have been able to transform. And sometimes when you go through something where you think that you should be doing something and it's taken away from you, you're like almost at a loss, like you don't know what to do with your life. But then you're going to sit there and you're going to try and figure out what you're going to do. So to get you back into your transition back into the game, how did that start?
How long do you want me to take with this?
Well,
Well, you know what? I went.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. Okay, I can do it in less than that. So I got into, like, my dad was into hotels and restaurants, and that was like my first sort of real job after hockey was being, because I was half owner with the pub up in Fort McMurray. So that was an easy one. Like I was already an owner, and now I could be in active ownership, and so I got involved with that and really just dove right in. And rebranded it, the menu, redesigned, like did everything, right? The staff, and so from top to bottom, kind of did a whole rework and saw that happen and was building the team there. And why I bring that up is because
I love
that whole teamwork, bringing hockey into an F&B environment, like I really found that there was. And that's the thing. I'm going to digress a little bit. Like for like the athletes out there that are part of team sports, is like they think that maybe they don't have much to offer in a corporate environment. And I'm like, you are so far wrong.
Yeah.
Like what you've learned just without even knowing you're learning it is like invaluable to corporate companies, because people that are just on their own all the time, learning about their own thing, and are in school and are grinding it out, and then now they become part of like this group. That's foreign, and they don't know like the little interpersonal connections that matter, and how to be a part of a team, and how to play a role, and I mean all these things. Anyway, so bringing some of those concepts to F&B was like really rewarding. And then my role within that whole thing grew. You're familiar with being part of a family business and wearing a lot of hats and everything else that I was doing there. And it was, you say that you need to be passionate, and it's funny for me, it's like I have this saying, right? Like never half-ass anything. Always use your full ass.
Yes. But what's the truth?
But for me, there's enough power in that to do that. Like, did I absolutely love F&B, or did I absolutely love hotels? Like, not really. Did I like being in the office where I was at where my dad had? But I love the idea of it. I love the idea of the grind and and crushing it.
Too.
So for me, like there's passion in that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that can feed your soul to a certain extent,
Jason,
right?
That's a very good point.
So, but from there, it turned out to be a little bit of a dead end. I knew it wasn't like really going to be something long term. And then that was like that was my big decision, right? Like now what?
Now what?
Yeah, like now what?
Now
right?
what am I gonna do?
Now what? So the lessons I took from that was that I realized that I was good at making people better.
Amazing.
Like that was one thing that I found a lot of like joy in that. You know what I mean? Like seeing people see strength in themselves, helping them become a better version of themselves, helping them feel good about what they're doing, and whether it's a housekeeper or a front desk person or a waiter or a chef or whatever, right? Everyone has their own. They want to be better, right? Even some that don't even know they want to be better, but when you can make them better, it's pretty cool.
Oh, it's the best.
So that was like, I was like, all right, I'm good at this. I seem to be being able to connect with people.
Yeah.
And then I was going through like late 30s, like kind of not in shape as much as I was anymore, and in this sort of transitionary phase, just physically. Yeah. And so I got back into health and fitness a lot. So, that was obviously a huge part of my life forever. Yes. And then I took a kind of a backstage, and that connected to me I'm going to be a life coach for CEOs, male CEOs, right? Like to help them get their stuff back together, help them connect everything. And so that was like a 2 or 3 year thing where I explored the idea of one-on-one coaching, right? Not even knowing that I was really doing it. And it was, I was successful in it. But in one of the seminars that I was doing with some coaches to learn how to be a better coach, this kid that was filming the things that was going on, and he knew my story, was a huge hockey fan. He's like, why aren't you doing this for hockey players?
Nice!
And I was like, why aren't I doing this for hockey players? Because it just made way more sense, right? Yes. Like I had like 20 years of experience that nobody else has in the world, right? Like it's such a finite, small
Well, you've got your market. It's like,
well, yeah,
it's your
but
market.
I'm just saying, like my own life history, right? That's
Right.
stuff that you can't go to university for,
Right,
right?
right.
Like the draft story I told.
Yes.
You mean that the amount of teams I was on, the ups and downs, the
Yes.
trades. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like you don't.
Like you lived it.
Yeah, as a hockey player, like, yeah, I mean that's invaluable, and I didn't
Absolutely.
recognize that as much,
Love it.
right? So now I could connect the dots of like, okay, I'm good at helping people be better. I
Yeah.
also have this life history of hockey.
Amazing.
Hockey players need this right now. Like they're not as resilient and
Yeah.
they're not as mentally tough, and these things that that I think that the current market needs. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it was like a kick in the butt, and he was also the guy who was like, and you should do a podcast because you, I think you speak fairly well, and I think you'd be good. And I'm like, really?
Amazing.
So like, yeah, it wasn't even my idea. I was kind of like, I was coachable in that scenario. I'm like, all right, I'll try this out. And so 140 episodes later, like that's part of it. And here we
I
go.
think that is so awesome. And what I love about that story is that someone else gave you the answer. And I do find that like from being out there is to, if you're open to like receiving messages and if you're open and you're available to listen to what people have to tell you, you're gonna soak that in.
Yeah.
So if you weren't at a stage in your life and that guy told you that, you were at a stage in your life, maybe you weren't ready for something, you probably would have been in your ear, out the other. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, because you wouldn't have been able to grasp that understanding of someone seeing something else in you. So sometimes searching within your is hard because it's like a hamster wheel. You're like, oh my God, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you did hockey for so long. Why didn't you think about that?
Yeah.
But it takes an outsider to come in and be like, hey, this is what I think you could be good at. So, like if you're frustrated or something and you don't know what to do with yourself, just take note of what people are telling you,
Yeah.
And don't say they're telling me to be this. Like, take it as you want, but sometimes there could be a little golden nugget in there and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, that could be me,
Yeah.
And look what you did, 140 episodes.
Yeah. There's a
And
growth there, right? Like
There
I think
is.
in the maturity level. I don't know, you say one ear out the other. Like I was thinking about that. Like I find that when I'm not at my best, it's not even coming in. And I
Yeah,
think most people
it's
can
true.
relate. It's like you have this internal, and it's like doesn't even
You're close
come
enough.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's something that I try and practice all the time.
Good.
I mean, being collaborative and like really asking, and I'm a question guy. I like to ask questions
Yes.
and I like to hear the answers.
Yes.
I mean, that's why I ask them.
yes.
And this was like I didn't see that in myself because I think maybe I hope I was able to share that. Like I wasn't necessarily proud of my hockey career.
That's
Right?
probably why
So,
you
like-
didn't even want to go into it.
Well, yeah,
right?
and
Like,
who would
there
want to
was
listen to my podcast? I'm
Got
a
you.
guy who never made it, you know what I mean? And or
Right.
never made it the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I had all these, downfalls and didn't play as many games as I wanted to. So like for me to see myself in this position, I couldn't see it. Right? Because I didn't see it in me. But he was able now to
Uh-huh.
turn the page and be like, no, this is exactly why you should
You
be
should.
behind a mic.
Oh, I love
And
that.
talking to kids, and it was like, oh, okay, and that was the one where I was like, all right, but then there's definitely a vulnerability in that, and there still is, right? Like to do that and be like, okay, yeah, maybe somebody will want to listen, maybe someone will or won't, but it's like, do it.
But
You know what I mean?
you
Yeah.
proved that it's the truth. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I feel like if you feel like by making yourself vulnerable, like I feel like that is what attracts you to people because there's so much in this world that is so fake now and so like you're not sure if that's legit. But when you come out there and be like, this is who I am, and you mentioned we're just humans, like we're learning, we're living, we're experiencing. So why put a fakeness out there? Because we're all like. Everybody's not going to be playing. How many games is an amazing player in the NHL? What's like the
Oh, like 1,000 would be like
Okay.
the biggest number.
so
would be
1,000? Like,
Yeah.
but there's very rare 1,000 player hockey players. You know what I mean? Like NHL players. But what about all those other people that have gone through their own journey? And I feel like once you share your own journey, is where people can relate and people can like say, oh, you know what? Maybe I could do that. And
We
it
have to
gives
get out of
people
our own way.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
get out of your own way.
Yeah.
I
for
think
sure.
that's helped me.
And
as
just
well.
go. I mean, I've even had. We with the podcast, right? I didn't
Yeah.
want to do it.
You
I really
okay?
didn't want to do it. And like there's so many things as like to prepare
Oh.
and you can like overthink the crap out of
Yeah.
stuff like that. Not necessarily a podcast, but I mean go do it.
Go do it.
Let's do it. Don't
So, like,
overthink it.
And
Do it.
what's
you
the
know?
worst that's going to happen, you guys? If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Move on, because
Yeah.
life's too short. And explore, because the more you explore, the more you grow. And I've seen you grow as a person, you know, through business, through family. So it's really cool to see people's journeys. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And deep down, after this conversation, not even deep down, what feeds your soul?
What feeds my
Yeah.
soul? That's an interesting question. I feel very blessed that and I do want to take accountability for it, because I think there's accountability in everything, even like my 41 game NHL career. But where I'm at now was like a very big choice, right? I wanted to be around my kids.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a part of their journey and what they were up to.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I had a few boxes that I needed to check, right? I had to have my own hours, I had to have my own business. You know, I wanted to do something within hockey, and I wanted to help people. And so I kind of created, like, that's sort of the weird thing with what I'm doing. I essentially created a business that didn't exist.
Yes.
So like there was a lot of like leaps that had to happen there. And some trust and some belief in myself and other things. But the beauty is that I'm around my kids, right? I do get to help other people's kids. I do get to help people be better. I'm able to support my family, which is obviously the big thing at the end of the day. I mean, because there's a reality to life that you need to pay bills, right? And so, like, as you can be as much as you want about happy and feed your soul, but like you gotta get stuff done.
100%.
You gotta get stuff done.
100%.
And so I'm grateful that I've been able to connect those boxes, you know, and so, yeah, there are days, like you said, of course, where it's like, oh, I'm doing this, like, I mean, for the 98th day in a row, right? Because it is like a business that never ends and never really does anything, but like there's so many things that are so glorious about it. So it does. I mean, I'm very grateful for where I'm at right now and for the growth of it and for the person that it's made me become.
100%.
When you're thinking about yourself in a way of like, you know, like I am a mentor or a guide or an example, not only for your own kids, but now for like lots of other people's kids. There's some ownership there, right? And there's some responsibility, which I don't take lightly. And I think it's an awesome thing because why not try and be your best, right?
100%. And make other people the best they can be.
Yeah.
So I think that is just amazing.
Cool.
So you do feed your soul, see?
Yeah, no, of course. Yes.
So feed your soul.
Feed your soul. I think it's just a little bit more of a male perspective.
100%.
You know?
And this is kind of why I wanted to have a male perspective on the show, because, like, you know, I really am girly and feed your soul and, you know, unicorns and butterflies and rainbows, you know, but like the male comes in is like, you know, this is how I feed my soul, but it is a perspective, and that's what I wanted to share, because you are somebody that I feel has been feeding their soul. So,
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
so
me.
that kind of wraps up our episode, but before we finish, I always finish with another soul second.
Oh, we're going to dance again?
No dance.
Oh,
this
shoot.
is just a breath.
Darn.
So we're going to do a breath together, and if you're just listening, I want you we're going to take one deep breath together.
Just one?
Just one.
Okay.
So it just cleanses everything. You can close your eyes if you want to, or if you don't want to, that's fine too. And everybody just take a deep breath in through their nose. And exhale however you like. And there you go. So second, taking a deep breath, grounding yourself again, get yourself going, ground yourself. It's a transition through life. Thank you so much for watching Feed Your Soul. Thank you, Jason, for
Thanks
being a
for
part
having
of
me,
this.
Serena.
It just really was amazing. And we will see you at episode number 4.